Good morning, Chasm listeners. Today is Saturday, July 31st, 2021, and this is your weekly conservation report. My name is Tessa Zee, a conservation planner with the Stearns County Soil and Water Conservation District. Today I wanted to pass along some information that I thought would be good to bring up during this time of year coming into cover crop season, as well as some things that I've learned recently from working with landowners, as well as a few articles that I've read. My background is mostly in soils and soil health, so I always like to bring that into everything that I'm doing when I'm working with landowners on conservation practices, because healthy soil really is the building blocks and foundation of any productive agricultural system. Healthy soil is thriving with biological activity and creates a system of air and water pores that both allow water to infiltrate the soil and to hold that water in place. Now, what are the means to create that healthy soil? First, you have to protect your soil surface. This includes the use of cover crops and mulch, as well as having perennial vegetation and wildlife areas. These practices can provide many benefits to the land. Wind and water erosion control, reducing evaporation from the soil surface, moderating soil temperatures, preserving soil aggregation. When rainfall hits the cover crops or mulch, for example, it dissipates the raindrop's energy, whereas if rainfall hits bare soil, those soil particles are destroyed, suppressing weed growth, and providing habitat as well for beneficial insects and pollinators. Another principle of soil health is minimizing soil disturbance of all kinds. This can be in both physical, like tillage, and chemical, with the overuse of fertilizers and pesticides. Both of these can disrupt the soil food web, and continuous tillage over time degrades the soil's overall function and can reduce the soil pore space, which restricts water infiltration and destroys those biological glues that hold the soil together. The next principle is plant diversity. Of course, our original landscapes were filled with diversity, but that doesn't always work with our modern food system. So it's always recommended to farm a rotation that is as diverse as possible. This can be with a mixture of perennial and annual plants, or just a multi-species crop rotation. The next principle is continual live plants and roots in the soil. As I mentioned previously, this provides that soil cover and holds those soil glues together year-round. The last soil health principle is livestock integration. And I'm going to touch on this later on, but basically, it's the synergistic role that animals, plants, and soil all have together. This has been the case throughout geological time and continues to be today. There's lots of ways that plants and animals can work together on your land. Protecting organic matter is one of the most important aspects of soil health. Organic matter is made up of living, dead, and decomposed organisms. That living component can represent up to 15% of the total organic matter, made up of fungi, bacteria, and viruses to insects, plant roots, earthworms, mammals, you name it. I thought this was important to bring up because healthy soils can better withstand climatic stresses of droughts and floods, in some cases can help mitigate these stresses. And we all know with the drought conditions that are happening right now in our county and throughout the state, it's always important to be managing for these harder years so we can come out on top. Investments that you can make in your farm, such as adding organic amendments, practicing no or reduced tillage, leaving crop residue, planting cover crops, and planting diverse crop rotations. These are all practices that will help the soil both efficiently cycle water and nutrients to sustain plant and animal productivity, as well as maintain and improve soil quality. And us at the Stearns SWCD, that's what we're all about. We've seen time and time again that the return on these soil health investments will pay off year after year. In the past few years, we've had a lot more interest in cover crops, which has been great. And for cattle producers, cover crops can be a great tool for some extra fall grazing. The ability to graze cover crops from, say, September through November helps cut feed costs significantly. Some tips for planting cover crops for forage is plant sooner rather than later. The sooner you can get the cover crops in, the better. If it works with your operation, you could even start in August and have broadcast cover crop mixes into your standing corn and soybeans. More variety in your seed mix is always better as well, not just for soil health benefits, but for feed and forage quality. Guys have even been trying mixes of warm and cool season plants, including grasses, legumes, and broadleafs, with a variety of rooting depths. Legumes can add nitrogen, while grasses can add organic carbon and recycle phosphorus to the legume crops. Radishes and turnips, for example, could also help loosen the soil and recycle nitrogen. In your cropland areas that are fenced, grazing the cover crops with livestock can give you some extra economic benefit for sure, all while giving your pastures an important period of rest and recovery before the next grazing season. On a drought year like this year, the best option for cover crops right now, later in the growing season, would be those warm season cover crops. This could be Siberian millet, Sudan grass, sorghum Sudan grass hybrids. These warm season crops should probably be planted no later than late July or early August, and then you would harvest them before a hard frost. or directly following the hard frost to retain their forage quality and palatability. Foxtail millet could be another option as well. Cool season cover crop mixes can make excellent pasture well into the early winter. However, cool season plants are less water efficient and will be more prone to fail if the drought persists. Winter annuals like winter wheat, winter rye, and winter triticale can be a good option for spring grazing, and they can also be utilized early season grazing and harvested for hay. Winter rye and triticale are the best options for grazing May through early June. Winter wheat produces less foliage in May, but will provide better option for haying. And rye and triticale can be harvested for hay by early June, while winter wheat is harvested in later June. One precaution is that many annual forages have toxicity risks when growing under stress. Cereal grains, turnips, and millet can be high in nitrates when they're grown in droughty conditions. So definitely don't add any nitrogen fertilizers when planting these crops in the summer. It's recommended to test for nitrate levels of your soil, especially if the plant is growing under drought stresses. Sorghum and Sudan grass hybrids are susceptible to prussic acid toxicity when immature or under stress. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Overall, I just wanted to bring up some things that I've read recently and worked with some guys on related to cover crops and maybe utilizing them for some grazing options in winter and then again in the spring. Our cover crop program through the Stearns County Soil and Water is still taking applications, so feel free to give our office a call at 320-251-7800 extension 3. And any of our staff could assist in getting an application together or talking through options on species selection. I also wanted to bring up again a Prescribed Grazing Field Day that the Stearns SWCD is hosting on Wednesday, August 18th. Pre-registration is required by August 11th. It's a free event and lunch is included. Topics include prescribed grazing forages and herd decision and cattle breeds. I'll be talking about SWCD programs as well as the producers' experience with implementing a prescribed grazing system. We'll also be discussing the EQIP program as well as an option for grazing. And then we will be doing an infield pasture walk with the producer. He'll be showing his fencing and watering system, what he used to reseed his pasture, and his rotational grazing operation. For more information and to register, please go to stearnscountyswcd.net/grazing field day. Thank you so much, everyone. This has been your weekly conservation report. Have a great weekend.